Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Thursday night here at the Sports Crib, home of the Sports Crib Network. I got caught out here doing a little California dreaming, watching this game here on Prime Video. But we're here, and let's get this show on the road. I see Bill is here. Bill, how you doing this evening?
So far, so good. I hope you're doing well also.
I'm doing well. I heard you were a little under the weather. I hope things are better.
No, no, no. Wasn't sick, just really busy.
Oh,
Swamped. So yeah, I wasn't able to make it to the other show just because I had so much stuff I had to do. It's finally beginning to lighten up a little, though I've still got a lot of work ahead of me.
Sure. Now, I mean, it's time to get ready for next year. I mean,
Yeah, well,
how
there's
can you
that.
get
There's
there?
that. Then there's the job they actually pay me to do that, is starting to cut into my football time. But I did just drop my first article on a position group on the cornerbacks, and so that a lot of work went into that.
All right. Well, hey, once again, World Series time is here again.
That it is.
The Phillies, as we spoke of, their first World Series in a couple decades.
Yes.
And the Houston Astros seem to keep just rolling right along here. But let's talk about this Judge Sweepstakes here for a minute, because now it seems like the Giants are also dipping their toes into this judge question, and they're also preparing. Uh, the one team that we haven't heard about, and I know it's not like they're hurting for money, is the Giants, but I mean, excuse me, the Dodgers. But
Well, I
we
mean,
do
where would
have
they
the
play him? Is the issue. uh,
well,
there's no
yeah, that,
DH.
yeah,
Well,
no,
I guess
yeah,
there is. I take it back. There is now universal DH. Right. Sorry, they do.
yeah.
I guess there is the DH now. So I guess they could DH him, but I mean they're set pretty much in the outfield. Their outfield's pretty set. They've spent a lot of money on there. I mean, not that money matters to them, but they've got a lot of
Right. That yeah. But
highly
yeah.
paid individuals in their outfield. They'd either have to trade one or bench a dude who's making a hell of a lot of money.
Well, I mean, hey, you never can tell how that goes around here when you're talking about the Mets, the Yankees, and the Giants. I mean, so, and like I said, if you would happen to throw the Dodgers in the mix, the young man is looking at a hell of a checkbook.
Well, I mean, he's going to get. I mean, he turned out a lot of money, as you know. um, like the amount of money he was offered is staggering, but he knew he could get more. He saw, once again, as they say, bet on himself. He saw this year coming. But yeah, the Dodgers outfield as it currently stands is Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, neither of whom are exactly hurting for money, and I guess the lowest paid of the group is Tracy Thompson. He's the only person who, and they literally purchased him. That is how they got him. Purchased him from Detroit. It sounds terrible when you say it that way. But
Let's say
I
they
remember
purchased
him.
his contract. Yes.
Right, correct. But I remember him because he was a big time prospect of my favorite team, or one of my favorite teams, the White Sox, the team I go to see the most. I'll put it that way. The team that I see the most because I live not too far from the ballpark is the Chicago White Sox, and he was drafted by them in the second round in 2009. Kind of knocked around with their system for a while, got traded, and then got picked up and traded, and he's been around, but he's finally sort of found a home, at least for the moment, with the Dodgers after breaking in with the White Sox back in 2015. And his contract, as you said, was purchased. It does sound better when you say that. But he's obviously you could see moving him. If you got Aaron Judge, I guess you could find him another place to contribute, or he might even become a bench player at that point, since he's not a guy who's making a gazillion dollars, unlike the rest of their outfield.
Yeah. But who do you think has the inside track? Because I'm not really sure it's the Yankees.
Well, the Yankees do have the inside track, but amongst the teams not named the Yankees, I guess is what I would say. Most young players, at least if they've had a good experience, they put that way. Most young players, if they've had a good experience, usually lean towards the team that drafted them, all other things being equal. The question is, will all other things be equal? Will he have a clearly better opportunity someplace else? And if the answer is yes, well, then yes, all bets are off. If he truly comes to believe that the money's roughly going to be equivalent with any of the teams mentioned, and it probably will be roughly equivalent with either teams that have been mentioned so far. So now it comes down to situation. Does he like the situation? Does he like the people? Does he like the team? Other things come into play. Now, New York is a state that has a fair amount of tax burden, as you might well have heard. And so with professional athletes and other people, it's not just professional athletes, musicians, I mean, anyone who travels a lot while they're being paid, you pay state taxes for if the time when you would be compensated coincides with you being in the state that has a state income tax, you pay state income tax on the amount that you would have been paid during that time period. So that means playing a lot of New York, and New York has a fairly high, the tax rate is pretty high there. And California has an extremely, even higher. So as you probably are very aware, not telling you things you don't know. So you have to almost think about what those places pay you and then adding or subtracting, I should say, subtracting like 8-point-something% from a deal from a state that does not have state income tax, a Texas-based team, or other states, a Florida-based team, that doesn't have those things. So that if you don't take that into account, I promise you your agent takes that into account. And they ought to. So if you're getting the exact same amount of money from a California team or a New York team as, say, I don't think the Rangers are in the running, but let's throw the Rangers in there. If the Rangers were in the running and they're offering the same amount, it's effectively more money, right? Because you're going to pay half of your games in Texas, where there's no state income tax. So that's the equivalent of getting a couple of $1 million extra in the contract. And like I said, I don't know enough about him as a person to know if there's certain parts of the country that appeal to him more or less than others. Some guys will sacrifice, to live a certain place if they think they're going to win, if they like the people, etc. But once again, all things being equal, some guys would prefer to be in some places in the country other than others.
Well, I mean, what if you're talking strictly of baseball nostalgia, history, it would the pinstripes, of course, would solidify your reputation and your status among your peers. But I don't think that any bid right now, seemingly with the Mets promising 345 million or something like that. But right now, there's no amount out there that the Yankees couldn't match. So it doesn't really, I'm thinking that he'll be back as a Yankee, but like you said, you're going to be taxed in either New York or California. So it's a matter of, would I rather be taxed in a Mets uniform or would I rather be taxed in a Yankee uniform? So I think that's kind of what it comes down to.
And traditionally, that has not been a fair fight.
No.
But more recently, the Mets organization has been one that's on the upswing. And you wouldn't really even have to move, most likely, right? You would. It's a slightly different commute. You're getting on the 7 train. Shout out to the MTA, the Metropolitan Transit System, which is actually a very good public transportation system in New York and the metropolitan area. I've been on not all, but most of the trains there. I lived in Brooklyn for 7.5 years. But The Yankees obviously are right by a train stop as well, but that's up in the Bronx, up north. And then in the case of the Mets, they play out in along what do you call it? Queens, out in Queens, not too far from where the tennis facility for the U.S. Open and stuff like that is located. So same train, 7 train. So the question I think it'll come down to is a place where he thinks they can win. If he wants to extend his career, I wonder how much he'll care about playing in the field. He's actually a pretty decent fielder, especially for a guy his size. I mean, he's 272 pounds and moves shockingly well for a man that size.
Well, it's not like he's unaccustomed to playing the field. I mean,
No, I'm saying that's what I'm saying. I don't know how much that matters to him. I don't know enough about him to know if he's a guy that wants to play in the field or if he's a guy who's open to DHing. Because some of the teams that have been mentioned are places that are solidified in the outfield. So either they'd have to move. The Dodgers are talking about playing Mookie Betts at second base. Now, I mean, that's the theory. They'd be talking about moving Mookie Betts to second base, which is a position that Mookie played in his career. I mean, that's a possibility. I don't know how serious that talk is, and I don't know if Mookie Betts has indicated whether or not he's up for it. I just know that's the kind of thing you see on like message boards.
Yeah, but no, like I said, right now it seems to be the Yankees, the Giants, and the Mets. But we'll see. Speaking of the World Series, who you got? We came up with this sticks and stones scenario before, but who you got? The Phillies? Just after waiting for so long, or
yes, correct. Yes. Well, as you know, I was born in Hahnemann Hospital in the city of brotherly shove. So, shout out to my late grandfather, Cyrus Eccles Young, who was a big time Phillies fan. And I spent a lot of time watching the Phillies back when the Tug McGraw days, right? Back, I watched Bake McBride. I watched, so yes, I was a Phillies fan seasonally, like when I was with my grandfather, I was a Phillies fan. I had grown up a Mets fan because their original AAA franchise was in my hometown. Now, the Tides are no longer affiliated with the Mets are now affiliated with the Orioles. But so I grew up a Mets fan, but whenever I was with my grandfather, I would root for the Phillies.
Full series?
Yeah, I think the series. Wait, do I think it goes to full 7? You start asking?
Yes.
Yes, I do think it goes all 7.
Okay. Phillies in 7, y'all. Remember, anybody listening in Las Vegas, you got to hear from Bill first.
Yeah. And I think that the games the Phillies win will be super close. The games they lose will get blown out. I think it's how it's going to play out. Like, I think when you look at the run differential, when it's all said and done, the Astros will actually have, quote unquote, won in that they'll have the better run differential.
Yeah, well, hey, like I said, it should be very, very interesting. But I think we could see the Astros possibly even again next year. They are set up for quite some time. Great lineup. But let's talk about the NBA a little bit. Bill, the basketball world, and a lot of us gasped when the Magic took Banchero with the first overall pick. Like, what the hell is going on? Where did this come from? But now, the Magic rookie has become the 7th NBA player in history to score 20 points in his first 5 games.
Yep.
Your thoughts?
It's not that surprising. Banchero has always been a guy who could score with either hand from about 3 or 4 different spots in different depths. He's obviously good around the basket, but he can score from other places. He has soft hands. He's a pretty good passer. He's a decent ball handler. And let's be honest, the game has changed in such a way that I'm not going to call him soft because that's incorrect. But he's not the toughest guy in the world. But you don't have to be. You could be a very effective interior player and not be a tough guy, right? The game has morphed in such a way that it's become more.
Yeah,
European.
the bad boy Pistons aren't coming through the
They are not coming through the door.
tunnel.
You are correct. They would not be allowed through the door.
Yeah, probably you're right. yeah, yeah, I wonder who would last longest in the game today, Lambier or Rodman?
Well, I mean, Lambier usually did a better job of working the officials, right? And it seemed like Dennis didn't really have that touch for getting them on his side sometimes. So probably Lambier. Not because he wouldn't deserve to get tossed, but mostly because I think he's more of a politician of the two, and which has helped him to be a really successful coach in the WNBA. Shout out to 3-time champion, I think 3-time, but an absolutely terrific basketball coach in the WNBA, like I said.
But getting back to Banchero.
Getting back to what you just asked. So the way I see and the way I understand the way the game is played now, this is a guy that would have been probably a come off the bench guy, right? He would have, remember how Detlef Shrimp was like 6th man of the year a couple of times? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, his game isn't that different from like Detlef Shrimp, but the guys who play like Detlef Shrimp played in his era are now superstars. Detlef Shrimp was just born too early because people thought that guys who were 6'9.5", needed to be tougher in those days or whatever. And now the game has changed, literally changed. And to say it's become more European, in a literal sense, there's way more Europeans playing now than there were when Det was one of them. You could fit all the European guys in the league and, in Det's day in like a taxi cab. If it was, one of those extended ones for their headroom and legroom. But, maybe like one of the Hummer taxis. But now, there's almost every team has 1 or 2 guys from overseas. So it's a literally more European game in just the number of guys, and the way it's being played is more like the game was played and still is in Europe. So I wasn't shocked that Banchero, and I started hearing. So in the last day and a half up to the draft, that was the name. Everyone's talking about, oh, he's going to go earlier than people think. He's going earlier than people think. And Draft Express, I can't remember the guy's name who runs it. Something Spiroy, whatever. I can't remember his name. It's something ends in Roy, I think. But he called it at one point, a few hours before the draft. He said, basically, I'll stake my reputation on Banchero being the first pick.
Yeah, man, he was correct. And Ranchero is playing certainly above expectations in a lot of people's terms. But hey, I guess the Magic seem like geniuses in some cases. But let's talk about a team that you have been on. Oh man, wow! I don't know if you've ever had. Have you ever had anything good to say about the Lakers since you've been on the
Well,
Well, I mean, but anyway.
They still have, I think, the best uniforms. I mean, there you go. I think it's the best
there you go. Okay, all right. Let's Bill gives, but they're off to an 0-4 start.
Not surprised.
And they're starting off as what, a 22% 3-point shooter. I mean, they're starting off with some of the worst shooting team in NBA history. And depending on how long this lasts, but Bill, can things get any worse? I mean,
if the injury bug starts biting, and it looks like it's getting a little bit, but yes, things could get worse. The good news is they might have a chance at the first overall pick. If you're looking for, sort of a silver lining there, the fact of the matter is,
Wait a
That
minute, Bill. Bill, hold on. Did I hear you right? You're saying a team that has LeBron James, AD, and Westbrook could possibly end up getting a lottery pick?
I'm going to ask you a question. What year is it, James? Because if you answered to me 2015, I'm saying no, they're gonna probably win it all. But if the answer, and I'm going to check again, check my notes, I believe it is 2022 in the year of our Lord. If indeed it is the year of our Lord 2022, then yes, they have a legitimate chance at a lottery pick.
Oh man. Okay. Well, anyway, so uh, as you mentioned, it does seem that the injury bug is biting. Russell is having trouble with his hip, I believe. It seems like was Schroeder is already missing.
Dennis Schroeder has been out so far, so he's hasn't even. I don't even know if he's practicing yet. The other guys are still able to practice apparently, but yes, who knew that a bunch of old guys would get hurt? James, who saw that coming?
Sure, and that Walker the fourth would be your leading scorer.
Of course he is, but he's also what 24. I mean, think about the youngest guy on the team, or one of them. I mean,
He's certainly one of them. Yes.
I mean, I hate to be mean, but there's something about being able to play and not having everything hurt that probably gives you a bit of an advantage over some of the other guys on the team.
Hey, when they say "My, how far the mighty have fallen." Uh, but speaking of hurt, and I know it's early. I understand that, but
He's not even 24. He doesn't turn 24 until December the 14th. He's 23. He
but
almost has to be the youngest player on the team, or at least the youngest player that in the starting rotation.
in the starting rotation.
Yeah.
But speaking of another young man that can't seem to be healthy, stay healthy, and we all know, like hey, a lot of it has to do with the amount of stress that he puts on his body and whatnot. But it seems like Zion is flirting with the injury bug also. 5 games into the season, what's how many games do you think Zion's going to play this year out of 83?
I think the over under is somewhere between 30 and 40. If he plays over half the games this season, I would call that a minor victory. I hate to keep harping on this, but physics are a real thing. They are. They are a real thing. They've got mathematical formulas explain it and everything. So, assuming he doesn't become a dramatically different person physically, I'm not talking about dropping 11 pounds or 9 or 8 or whatever. No, I mean, it would take a body transformation and him playing differently, probably as well. He would need to become more
Uh,
of a sort of a spot up shoot. I mean, yeah, I mean, it sounds funny to say about guys built like a 5 technique, defensive end in the NFL, but he'd have to play a different kind of basketball and lose some weight if he wants to be a guy that's playing 60, 70 games plus year in and year out.
I mean, but there's there's no record, or as far back as I can remember, of a man that size playing that many games a year healthy. I mean, even some of the other guys, when you mention chocolates, I mean, they played less games. The season wasn't as long, but I mean, I just don't, like, and if he were to lose 30 pounds, 25 pounds, I don't think his game could keep up with the speed of the NBA.
Well, I mean, the speed of the NBA is not so much his issue. It's like I said, the deceleration when he's coming down from the jumper is the issue of him with the NBA. I mean, there have been really big guys. I mean, remember the big O Oliver Miller? He got up to 312 pounds at one point. Now he was a different kind of player. The aerial portion of basketball was not the strength of Mr. Miller, but Debo has played, certainly well into the 280s at times in his career. He's trimmed down since. I mean, there were some big guys in the game, but most of them didn't have a game built around explosiveness, and Zion Williamson does. That's the difference. You can be a 280-pound, 270, 290-pound basketball player, but most of the guys that we're thinking about who are really, 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 really big had more ground-bound games. Wes Unseld wasn't an aerial artist. He was a really great position defender, and he could score with either hand, and he had a great bunch of post moves and drop steps and good stuff like that.
But they didn't play 83 games a year, number one, and the rules were a lot different.
Yeah, well, I mean, Oliver Miller played 82 games, but he was, like I said, he wasn't a big time leaper by any stretch of the imagination. He was just a huge, space eater on the interior of your basketball team. Like I said, the 82 games is probably not the big issue. Plus, he never plays that number anyway. But the issue is more what his back and his lower body is expected to endure when a man his size explodes upwards the way he does, and then eventually has to come down. James.
Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Scott. How are you doing?
Very good, gentlemen. Very good. I liked the last, Bill's analytic analysis of some of the postmen centers. It's kind of something now that I've been evaluating now that Timberwolves have the great Rudy Gobert.
Gobert.
I happened to go to the game. My brother was a big Utah fan, and he just he's just so discombobulated now with Gobert gone, and everybody's gone from there. And so we went to the game against Utah, and Utah beat the Timberwolves with the reserves that the Timberwolves traded to Utah. But what really stood out for me in that game is Rudy Gobert. He's not Moses Malone.
Yeah.
He's not Robert Parrish. He's not
he's not Nate Thurmond. No,
he's not Nate Thurmond. He's not Wes Unseld. He's not.
Nor could he have played under those rules. Rudy Gobert is not a tough guy. Rudy Gobert would not have been able to play under those same rules with Wes Unseld and some of the guys that you mentioned. I mean, Bill doesn't like to say. Bill doesn't like to use the word soft, but I will. But anyway,
it was very interesting because by the last quarter, Gobert had 6 points.
Yep.
But he had 23 rebounds.
Yep.
And he could have had double-digit points if he could make the putbacks. He got several rebounds that for some reason he couldn't make the dunk. And then at the end of the game, it went to overtime. And so he goes to the line. They fouled him. And if he could have made those 2 free throws, it would have tied up again. He missed both of them.
Yep.
He missed both of them.
Well, you know what they say: if Shaq could shoot free throws, the Lakers would have had 2 more titles, right?
Right.
So, but we were talking about the boy Zion, Mr. Scott. How many games you think he's going to be able to play this year? Bill said about 35, 36 at the most.
Well, I said anything over 40 should be considered a small victory. Is what I said. But yes, somewhere in there, probably. Yeah.
I mean, the young man is hobbled again already. And Bill said, he would have to lose about 20 or 30 pounds, but I don't think he would be the same player or bring the same value to the team. But what's your thoughts on this young man staying healthy long enough for the Pelicans to be relevant?
Well, I guess I didn't know he was already hurt, but it looked like he came out with great fanfare. Looked like he was in shape. He looked more svelte than he's looked in the first few games. He was dominant. He's still a young man, and it's it's like this. I mean, does he want to be Greg Oden, or does he really want to be a force in the league? It's up to him. But I think they've had a very good start with a young team. They could make some noise. We're seeing the frayed edges of certain teams like New Jersey, where they have their aging superstars. We've seen the Phillies, teams that are supposed to walk through. And obviously, don't even talk about my Lakers. It's pathetic to even watch them. I mean, they're coming into town Friday, and I'm considering going to see LeBron, but he may not play. And Davis is rolling around on the ground as usual, hurt,
but
hopping around.
Mr. Scott, you might be just the age to suit up for him, though. You could play those. Bill was just talking about the age. I mean, in the last 5 minutes, you could throw up, a couple threes, and
Well, I still believe I can make a free throw. I mean, I defy anyone that says I can't make a free throw. I believe I can do that.
You say you could make a free throw and play and play the key of G, right?
Well, the possibilities are endless, James.
So mentioning your Lakers there, Mr. Scott.
And is anyone watching the football game tonight?
Yes, I am. I have it on right here.
What's the score? What is the score?
It's still 10-3 Buccaneers.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Right now the Ravens are moving the ball. Okay. Tell me about your Lakers there, Mr. Scott. People are predicting a 2-8 by the time they get to 10. What do you think?
Well, it's I hate to say it, but it's a distinct possibility that could be the case. It's going to be very interesting when they come here Friday to see if they can beat the Timberwolves. They haven't got them win yet. They haven't gotten any wins.
So they're 0 for 4.
They're 0 for 4. So I'm scouring to see if calling some of my contacts. I'm really considering going to see LeBron, but I want to check to see that he's going to play and that Davis is going to play. Westbrook set out the last game, so I think something could be brewing there. Something could be brewing with him. I mean, he doesn't play the off the bench game, so he's not. He doesn't want anything to do with that. So they're in disarray.
Bill said that they could even be in line for a lottery pick. What do you think about that?
Oh, for Bronny, you mean? Maybe is that?
I think Bronny still got another year before he gets there, but do you think that the Lakers have fallen that far behind?
Yeah, well, it doesn't look good. It does not look good unless they can start getting some wins. This Patrick Beverly, they brought him in. They thought he's just a lot of gesturing. I mean, I watched his game here with the Timberwolves. He's, kind of an annoyance type of a guy. Doesn't really have, to me, a lot of things to add. But I don't know. I think they need to win. They need to win, and they need to start winning now. That's the whole thing with them. They need to start winning. That'll fix everything.
Mrs. Scott, you mentioned guys that came in looking svelte and whatnot, and teams that were having trouble. Well, this year for once, Harden comes in, and he looks like he's actually putting in a little work. He didn't come in with that little roll around his waist like he usually does every year. But now that he's come back in shape, uh, the 76ers have started out 1-4. What's that about?
It's directed towards me or Mr. Scott?
Mr. Scott first, and then I'm gonna get to you because I want to.
Well, again, these high-priced older players. I mean, the way this game is going, I mean, it's a fast-paced, different game, throwing up a lot of threes. All the tricks that James, the beard, all of these Euro steps and all this foolishness is traveling, and maybe they're starting to call some of that stuff. I mean, maybe he can't get away with all these dance moves that he's been getting away with for all these years. So, and then moving around. I mean, does he have continuity with his team? The way he moves around, and he's a guy that you'd want to be kind of a focal point for your team. But he gets to places, and then he's got to go here. He doesn't like this, and engineers moves to another team. So I don't know about that. I mean, I like Doc because I have a little connection there, but they got this is an uphill battle. I mean, these teams like Memphis and these younger teams, you always got your Golden States. Brooklyn's having a tough time. They got their superstars. They're triumphant, and it's just not going. It's not like they're just mowing down teams now. So it's gonna be very interesting.
Mr. Scott, we're going into halftime. The Bucks have just blocked. The Buccaneers have just blocked the field goal of the Ravens. So at halftime, the score is 7-3. I mean 10-3, and the Bucks get the kickoff. Bill,
That's the end of the over then. So okay.
Bill, what's your thoughts here on Mr. Harden? And I mean, Doc. I'm not sure how Doc's addressing this team this year. I mean, you got Embiid, but then you got Harold and PJ Tucker. One is 33 and the other is 37. I mean, what's with this? I mean, I thought there was a youth movement on in basketball.
Well, not for every team. Obviously, the Lakers also didn't get the memo. So there are some teams that aren't built the way a lot of other teams are built, but they have good players. They play well together. They play hard. Despite what you just said, they do actually have some quality depth pieces that come off the bench for them. Can they keep this up all year? Well, we're going to find that out together, right? If you can ask a bunch of stars and guys that were considered first-round draft picks to supplement their egos to the point where they get swallowed up collectively. But I mean, I don't think it's a big surprise that they're playing at a super high level. I saw that coming. I thought they'd be a top 8 defense. Are they outperforming even my expectations? I would say yes.
Bill, I turned on my NBA network the other night, and I was looking at Kyrie, and I thought I was watching Forrest Gump. I'm looking at Kyrie over there, and shouting at Ben Simmons, "Shoot, Ben, shoot!" And then he goes off on the press talking about, well, why are you guys always talking? Give him a. Well, I mean, Bill, what did you see out there, from Ben Simmons that's afraid to shoot? Bill?
Yep. Ben Simmons, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this before. Like sometimes somebody will say, oh, it's a great house, right? It's a beautiful colonial. It's got great bones. And they leave out, well, it's got black mold and termites. But other than that, what a beautiful house. Ben Simmons is a long, fast, nimble, explosive player who cannot shoot the basketball, but more importantly, will not shoot the basketball, which enables the defense to play 5-on-4 all the time when he's on the floor. So I think he's in a better environment. I think he will look better and play better. But that incident where Kyrie was yelling at him to shoot, that's not a one-time occurrence. I'm going to go on record as predicting this will happen more than once.
Mr. Scott, can you explain to me how a basketball player gets a job when he can't shoot the basketball?
No, he's a very interesting case because for some reason he still has a reputation that he's some type of a superstar type player, but he hasn't played in, I can't remember the last time that he was really playing a lot of games. It's been a couple of years at least, seems like, from injuries, and so then he sat out last year and he didn't play at all.
Yep.
Now he's coming in with great fanfare, but again, his limits, he's way more limited than Rudy Gobert. Because he cannot score at all. Scoring is just not part of his game. And I have to see what is the attraction to a guy like this? Is it the rebounding? Is his defense so good? I think some of it was he's a 6'8", 6'9", supposedly guard with that type of size. And if he really had those skills with that size, I think it would be warranted, all the accolades that he's getting. But right now, I haven't seen anything. And this non-ability to shoot the ball, somehow he's got a good agent, or he's got somebody that really thinks he's going to do something and that he's worth all the money and he's a superstar, but I don't see it.
Now, since you have seen him,
and I'm watching him play Dallas tonight.
Well, now I want to ask you. There was a lot of controversy about you guys getting Gobert and how much you gave up for him. Do you think it was worth it after you've had a chance to watch him, or do you think it's too early in the season for you to make a reasonable evaluation?
Sure. Well, a lot goes into an answering a question like that because of all the different things that can happen even when there's one player in this relatively simple sport, right? We talked about how you don't need the best equipment. You can literally spend, $20 or less, depending upon what else you find, and have a pickup baseball game going. The issue with baseball.
We're talking about basketball.
Sorry, basketball. The problem with basketball now and in the recent past, one is that you have a very strongly separate group of players who are in a certain privileged position, right? They're the ones that tell the GM we need to trade for so-and-so. And it doesn't always happen, but they have a lot of power. They're the ones that say, I don't like so-and-so. And so much of the outside world's perception of the team is built around who the quarterback is. But if you don't dig deeper, there's a lot of stuff you miss. I think that there's going to be there will come a time when the weaknesses and the cracks in that team will widen and grow. And I think that they'll come to wish they made some personnel decisions differently.
Mr. Scott, are you satisfied with the play of Gobert, or do you think it's too soon to evaluate?
Yeah, it's a pretty small sample size. This thing of working with two bigs, that's going to be kind of a coaching challenge. as to how they're going to be interchangeable and how they're going to work together. A lot of it with them, to me, it depends on who's your point guard. And I mean, D'Angelo Russell, they call him a point guard, but I don't really see him being just a staunch, straight ahead point guard type person. He's more of a shooting guard that I see. So it's going to how these two big men play together. That's really going to be the big challenge with the Timberwolves. Again, Gobert, 10 points, 25 rebounds. I mean, several blocks. So you're going to get a lot of contribution from that side of the basketball. So where is your scoring going to come from? And so far, the Timberwolves have been scoring a lot of points. I mean, they're over all the time. Not that I pay any attention to unders and overs. I don't pay any attention to that stuff. But I noticed that, their defense is something that's, coming into play too, which you would think would be improved with the Gobert because he's such a rim protector. I mean, he actually really does that. Blocks a lot of shots, gets rebounds. So it's still too early to tell. They've had a couple losses I've been surprised about. Losing to Utah here was kind of a surprise. But Utah seems to be playing good without a star. And that's another thing to watch. Some of these teams, they really, with coaching and these guys that really put the pedal to the metal. I'm watching Utah. I think they're going to be very interesting in the West, especially with the Lakers on such a downfall. Lakers just seem like there's no air left in it. There's no left air in the balloon.
I hear you. Talk a little college football here. Bill, is Texas A&M the biggest dumpster fire in college football?
No. They are the biggest dumpster fire that has a roster with that many 5-stars on it. But no, there's many worse programs. And I'm looking at you, UMass. I mean, there's many worse programs than that one.
Okay. Let's see. Most likely one loss team to miss the college football playoffs. Now, Bama's already lost their one game. For all assumptions, I'm going to say that Clemson is going to lose to Georgia. Michigan will lose to either Michigan State or Ohio State, and Ohio State will lose to either Michigan like they did last year or possibly Penn State next week. So, which of those teams with one loss would you say would be most likely to miss the playoffs, Mr. Scott?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I don't know if I'm really into that one. I think probably Penn State is probably I don't really see a lot from them.
No, Penn State isn't one of them. I just said that Ohio State would possibly lose to either Penn State or Michigan. That's
Oh
where I'm
no,
putting that.
Ohio State, they're the class of the Big Ten this year, and I think they'll either the Michigans, are okay, but I'm Ohio State all the way.
So okay, all right. So do you think Alabama, Michigan, or Clemson would be the one to miss the playoffs?
Boy, I don't think. Boy, that's a tough one. I too much talent all around. Too much talent all around. I can't. I defer. A bit.
Go ahead, Bill.
So the question was whether or not
which would be the most likely one-loss team to miss the playoffs, assuming that they're a one-loss team: Alabama, Michigan, Clemson, or Ohio State?
most likely to miss?
Yes.
Well, amongst the most likely to miss, I will say Alabama, and not because I think they're going to hit the skids, but more because it only takes 2 losses to essentially neutralize you as a team. But I think though once a dark horse, once they've lost that game and they, either officially or even unofficially, it's no longer a playoff year, I think they'll really begin to gel and play together as a team. There's a lot of sort of internal strife that's built around people's hitting certain numbers in their contract and things like that. So they need to loosen up and let it be what it is.
Bill, Bo Nix, Hendon Hooker, Caleb Williams, and Jayden Daniels are among the big names who transferred. Which transfer do you think has made the most impact on this current team? Or do you think it was one of those that wasn't mentioned?
Was there a follow-up question or a second part?
Well, the second part, do you think it would be someone else other than those 4 that I named that's had a bigger
Oh,
impact?
I mean, there are other players, but I think he has a level of prominence that I think outshines them all because he's a very important part of that team.
Who is that?
Who is that? We were just talking about.
Bo Nix, Hendon Hooker, Caleb Williams, or Jayden Daniels?
Yeah, well, Jayden Daniels.
I mean, Jayden Daniels. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, but no, Jayden Daniels is. You're talking about. Jayden. Okay, I was gonna say he's hurt, but you're talking about Jayden. Yeah. Well, I mean, Jayden Daniels is sort of effectively out of it, just because of the way the team's trending and the number of losses. So the guys who are legitimately in this fight include, the kid, right? I mean, Bo Nix is sort of back. Hendon Hooker, I think, is sort of a toss-up right now for the odds-on favorite between he and what is the other kid's name? But there's 2, Charles Cross, maybe. If we're talking about who's really the best at their positions now, since they don't ever give it to an offensive lineman, no matter how good he is, then amongst the guys that the fans can root for without having to learn anything about football, would include people like Baugh, the kid from NC State. Who else has come on? Undoubtedly a few more. So my answer to that is that the player who, if things stay the same or close to the same, I think has the best chance is Hooker, the junior Hooker Jr.
Hayden Hooker? Okay. Hendon Hooker.
Allen is his first name, just like his father. He's actually Allen Hendon Hooker, but he goes by his middle name.
Mr. Scott, we talked about seeing prime time on 60 Minutes, and I think he, as far as I know of, it's only been him and Ed Robinson, HBCU head coaches on there. But what do you think about the rumors of prime time heading to Auburn?
Well, if he leaves, I don't think Auburn's the place where he's going. That's just me talking here. I don't think that's where he's headed. I don't think he wants to be in the position of the professional little brother. I think that he bides his time. I think he spends at least one more year with Jackson State, and then he'll look at the landscape. I mean, obviously that could change if a job he really likes pops onto the market, but at the moment, I don't think any of those jobs are the ones that he wants.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Do you see Deion moving on to Auburn, or, as Bill said, sticking with Jackson State?
Well, for the time being, I guess Jackson State, but I would think he would be a candidate to go to the pros. I mean, I don't know why, college seems with all the recruiting and all the – I just think he's better suited. I mean, prime time. I mean, I just think he's better suited to coach in the pros. Now, whether he'll get a chance to do that, I mean, that's that's the big part right there. And as he do, they say he probably have to start off as an assistant or something, a position coach or something, if he's willing to do that. I don't know, but I think that's where his future is in the pro game. And so yeah, he'll probably stay down there another year or so. Um, but yeah, I don't see Auburn as a viable place for him. I think he'd want to be more pro. That's how I see him, as more of in a professional game.
Hmm, okay. Well, let's let's talk a little pros. Uh, Bill, the Eagles added Quinn to their defense for a fourth round draft pick. Is this a boom or bust move for the Eagles?
Right.
Bill?
Yeah. So you're back to which player again?
Quinn.
Quinn. Oh, Robert Quinn. Yeah. So I've watched Robert Quinn's career going back to college, and they have quite a little pass rushing tradition there. I think he and Ellis, Greg Ellis, are 1 and 2, and I think Peppers is like number 4 uh, on the Tar Heels all-time pass rushing list. He still has something left in the tank. He's still good for probably over the rest of the season's 4.5 number I'll throw out there, somewhere around there. But yeah, still a very good pass rusher.
Mr. Scott, what did you think about the Eagles adding Robert Quinn? You know, for a fourth round draft pick, do you think that the Bears gave him up for too little, or do you think that they didn't have any choice?
Yeah, I don't. Unless the Bears are already tanking, it just seems to be kind of early for teams to be doing that. I got a quality rusher like that. Boy, that's yeah. I think Philly they seem like they're all in. They want to win. So this is another thing that's just going to make it easier for the Vikings to take care of this Central Division. Aaron Rodgers just seems to be a shell of himself. And I realize it's somewhat fairly early, but if the Vikings can get by Arizona Sunday and be 6-1, that's going to be really tough for the Bears or Detroit. Really, I don't want to talk about Detroit. I don't want to say anything about them. They're still Detroit, but so yeah, this is a Viking year. It
They've
looks
only
like.
they've only lost one game less than the Packers.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's there for the queens, as my friend would say, the queens to win. And so we'll see. So now the Bears seem to be. I I saw some life in the quarterback though on the last game. I mean, I think that he's gonna get better. He's definitely worth building around. But I don't know. Don't know why they would get rid of a quality player like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, he had asked to be traded from the Bears for one, and probably they felt that if they didn't trade him for something, they would get nothing for him on the free agent market. So I can see, I think it was a sacrifice for a fourth round draft pick, but maybe that was the best thing that they could get, that the front office felt that they could get. Um,
Well, to me, if these guys are under contract, I don't see how they can want to break these contracts and I want out of here and I just trade me, demanding trades. I don't know. To me, it just disrupts the flow. You signed up, you're on the team. We got to go to war with this thing, and then these guys don't want to do it in the middle of the stream. So
Well,
boring to
I
me.
guess I guess it's easier to quit for a few $1 million a year than when you're making minimum wage. I guess it's much easier. I don't know. I've never made that kind of money, so I have no idea how I can just say wake up in the morning and say, hey, I don't want to play for you anymore, but I want one of those
Yeah.
paychecks though. You know, but that that's just me. Um,
Yeah.
So, since you spoke about him, let's talk about him a little bit there, Mr. Scott. Aaron Rodgers says that no one raised an issue with him questioning the Packers' offense. Uh, do you think that Rodgers' critiques help the Packers get above 500 and make the playoffs, Mr. Scott? I mean, if you guys go 6-0 and the Packers lose, you'll be what 4 games ahead in the win department.
Yeah, at least 3.
Yeah.
So we'll
Well, you're
see what
3 now,
Rogers is
right?
going to do.
You're 5-1, and they're 3-2, 2-3, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I think so.
eh,
Well,
so
Aaron Rodgers has become a head case. I mean, him and Brady. I mean, come on, they're getting past their use by dates. And this thing is, they've won the Super Bowls. They've gone in and done their thing. You can't do this thing forever. So I'm curious to see how the Tampa is going to do tonight. Baltimore is a quality team, but as far as Rodgers, they haven't replaced the receivers that he likes. The team really hasn't really gelled at all. So I have
you know,
to question how much these people really want to play. I mean, I don't know.
it's kind of when I listen to you, Mr. Scott. I kind of think that you forgot about two guys that played a long time in a Vikings uniform. You remember a guy named Tarkington and a guy named Tingelhoff?
Yeah.
Didn't you?
Well,
You guys had to wheel them out the pasture, didn't you?
Yeah, different era. I mean,
Okay.
Jim Marshall. I mean, well, he's the Iron Man of the league. Jim Marshall. Matter of fact, I'm starting a thing. Jim Marshall should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a travesty that he's not in the Hall of Fame. And I think the only reason he's not in because he ran the wrong way in that game. He ran the wrong. I think they can't do it. But maybe new voters will forget and look at how long he played as a 220-pound defensive end on one of the greatest defensive lines in history. And so, not to get on a tangent, but I'm working on getting Jim Marshall in the Hall of Fame. He should be in. There's no question about it.
Bill,
right.
what did you think about Aaron Rodgers' remarks and talking about well, no one said anything here. I mean, is Dubs a rookie going to come and say, hey, by the way, Aaron, it was you that wasn't on the right page, or maybe yeah, let's come. I mean, do you think that Aaron Rodgers is one that's going to accept criticism?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't accept criticism. He deflects, magnifies, or sometimes even creates it.
So do you? I mean, how do you think that the Packers will get back to 500 and make the
Well,
playoffs?
I think they'll not make the playoffs, but I think they'll suffer to a couple of them. Yes.
Bill, which team snaps the 4-game losing streak Sunday? The Broncos or the Jags?
Yeah. Well, that was directed to Mr. Scott or me again.
No, that was directed to you.
Oh, okay. And that was that. Yes, about Arizona.
No, which team is going to stop the 4-game losing streak? The Jags or the Broncos in London? They're both on a 4-game losing streak.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I'll go with the Broncos.
Who do you think, Mr. Scott?
Well, who's playing quarterback for the Broncos?
Not Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson's out, huh?
Well, I'll put it like this.
Yeah.
I don't. He's not officially out as of yet, but he said that he was doing some knee raises and doing some exercising on the plane over, and getting acclimated and whatnot. Uh, but
It's a
both
trap game, with the travel and all that, and the time and all. I and if Russell doesn't play, I'll go the other way. I'll go the other way if he doesn't play. I think they're going to be disappointed with Russell. I think Russell is another like a Matty Ice, passes used by date, was able to get hold up somebody for a big contract, but it really doesn't look good. He doesn't look like the old Russell Wilson.
Well, Mr. Scott, Keyshawn said that Russell's antics are leading people to believe that he's a phony. I mean, now he has to have an office inside the facility. He has to have so many hotel rooms when they're on the road. Uh, and some people are saying he's starting to act a little like a diva. Are you inclined to agree with Keyshawn, Mr. Scott? Russell
Yeah, if
is.
that's true, the prima donna thing that doesn't play well. I mean, that doesn't play well in this thing, because these other football, everybody got to do the work. You got 22 people, 11 on both sides. It's just one guy can do so much, and if it's not a team type of a thing, I think that's kind of a difficult thing to overcome. I haven't seen the real leadership, let's get behind Russell, let's get behind to do this. But he's like, no, I need all these things rather than winning. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
Do you agree with that, Bill? Russell's becoming a phony, or at least that's the precept of the perception of his peers.
Well, let me say this, and I don't know if I want to get too far down this path, but he's not. I mean, he's not a full-time flex player. He's not a full-time, offensive weapon. He's a destination they use for combat deck. All the guys are great and should be paid more, but they're not stuff what they're worth. That's not how you discover players delete worth.
Let's see. Oh, the Colts have announced that quarterback Sam Ellinger will be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season. Bill, do you think that this was the right move for the Colts? And have they surrendered the season?
That's a great question. Mr. Burns is a player who I believe will be with us during the recording of the show live. I think he'll be on, close to half, maybe slightly over half.
Who's that, Bill?
Was there a follow-up question?
No, I was saying, who's Mr. Burns? We were talking about whether or not Sam Ellinger.
Yeah, well, Sam Ellinger is a tough. He's a good person. He's tough. He works hard, but he's not ready to play quarterback in the NFL. They're going to have to completely change their game plan, dramatically change their game plan to accompany for what he can and cannot do. Still beloved figure in Texas Austin, led some incredible comeback wins, but not a guy that either physically or mentally has things you look for in a successful NFL quarterback.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Have the Colts given up the season? Have they surrendered?
Well, it would seem to be kind of early to say, okay, here's a guy that you acquire with great fanfare. And then, 6 games into the season, not only do you say he's benched for this other guy, but you're saying he's not playing no more this year. They came on and said he's not in our plans. He's not going to play unless it's emergency kind of a thing. So I don't know. I know that coach has been under fire too, even though I like their coach. I think he's a good football guy. So they're, something's wrong with them this year. Their running back is not Taylor has not been who he's been. He's had several games where he gets 40, 50 yards. Don't understand that. So I say they look like they're kind of in disarray right now. They're kind of in disarray. I mean, why would you get a quarterback? I mean, the glamour position, and then you bail now, and then say they could at least have said, well, he's hurt. He's not going to play this week. We're going to look at this guy. But they just said he's not going to play anymore. We're going with
And your
this other guy.
your backup is Nick Foles. Okay.
Which is another guy I don't understand. He wins the Super Bowl, and then he just moves around, can't get a job, and he's back up with everybody. Oh, I don't understand that either.
Bill, is Belichick trying to put a square peg in a round hole, starting Matt Jones?
I know he's considering it, and I can't completely rule it out because he is who he is.
Well, he's announced it already that Matt is going to be his. Yeah, he's announced that Matt's starting Sunday.
I always knew it could happen. I didn't think it would happen this early.
So, do you think Zappy is? I mean, is he putting too much on Jones' plate? Well, I guess that's it. Do you think he's putting too much on Jones' plate at one time, Bill?
So, if indeed, let's see. So you said that there is.
I'm saying that he's saying that he's sticking with Mac Jones, even though Matt Jones, he took him out after 2 series of downs on Thursday night.
Well, I do believe that at least in the immediate future he will go back to him, but assuming that you see Bailey Zappi continue to outplay him in practices and things like that, I think he eventually will pull the trigger on making the permanent switch if this continues.
All right, guys, let's we're gonna do a little thing in the AFC first, and then the NFC, and they're going to be contenders or pretenders. So in the AFC, I'm going to say that the number 1 and number 2 teams are the Bills and the Chiefs. So going from there, the Chargers, Bill, contenders or pretenders?
Well, pretenders in terms of making the playoffs. I think they'll, play better than they've been playing, but no.
Mr. Scott, the Chargers, contenders or pretenders?
I agree. Pretenders. I don't think they're hit and miss team.
Okay. Mrs. Scott, the Bungles, contenders or pretenders?
I think they're contenders. I think they are. Haven't looked too tight at their schedule yet, but I think they're. I think they're going to be in the mix.
Okay, Bill, the Bungles.
I think they're a contender.
The Titans, Bill.
Well, because of the incredible weakness of their division, they're going to end up winning it by default. So yes, technically speaking, they are a contender.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I agree. I concur. I'll follow that cab on that one.
Okay, the Jets, Mr. Scott.
Man, the Jets started out pretty good. I think they're going to end up pretenders.
Bill.
Yeah, well, I will agree. Though it helps that they're playing in the AFC East, which, Miami is a team that, but obviously the problem is the Bills. So I don't see a path for them to get the wild card.
Okay, well, now that you mentioned them, Miami, Bill, contenders or pretenders?
I think Miami does win a wild card, so that makes them contenders.
Mr. Scott, the score is now 10-10 with 4:13 left in the third quarter. So, the Ratbirds, Mr. Scott, contenders or pretenders?
Oh, they're out of it. Yeah, I don't see them doing anything.
Bill?
Well, they certainly aren't out of it because, once again, look at the records of the other teams in the division. They're still above the Browns. They're still above or maybe they're tied in record with the Bengals, and obviously above Pittsburgh. So all they have to do is sort of maintain where they are and stay a game or so above 500, and they're likely to be right there to win the division. And if they don't win their division, they'll be a strong contender for a wild card.
NFC, contenders or pretenders? Mr. Scott, the Buccaneers.
I think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay. All right. Bill, the Buccaneers.
I think that the Buccaneers' run has come to an end. I think that once again they're in such a weak division that they have a chance, but I just don't think. I think that they're going to. I think the injury bug is going to start to really rear its ugly head for them. I think this is a team that's going to stumble down the stretch.
Bill, the Giants.
I never thought I would say this, but I believe they are contenders. I don't think they're going to win their division. I think the Eagles will salt the division away, but I think they'll be a wild card team.
Mr. Scott.
I'd agree. Again, I like what I've seen of the Giants. I mean, they just seem to be somewhat rejuvenated, and I think they'll make the playoffs.
Mr. Scott, the Packers.
Well, it's pretty hard to say that they won't make the playoffs. Will they go anywhere? I don't. Boy, they could ride. I mean, if they continue to tread water and continue with Rodgers, which I still think is one of the best quarterbacks, they'll make the playoffs. They're contenders.
Bill.
The Packers. That's a tough one. I do think they right the ship. I do think they secure a wild card, but it won't be pretty. They're gonna have some bad days on their way to doing it, but I think they gel late and get there.
The Saints, Bill.
This is back to what I just said about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. One of those teams has to win it, right? I mean, they can't all miss the playoffs, right? So somebody has to get that spot. I'm going to lean slightly towards the Saints over Tampa Bay because I already pulled Tampa Bay out of contention. So I guess it has to be them.
Mr. Scott, the Saints.
Yeah, that's a toss-up because the quarterback thing is so unstable. I think they're going to end up pretenders.
What about the Rams, Mr. Scott?
I think they are too. I mean, I think their quarterback been in Detroit so long. I still say that one-hit wonder. I think pretenders.
Bill, the Rams. I don't think so. I think the Rams come up probably just one game shy. It'll be tough because they're going to be close, but I don't think they're going to get there.
The Cardinals, Bill.
Oof. Well, the Cardinals are another team that's obviously the injury bug is biting. But I think at some point they start to gel and make the playoffs.
Mr. Scott, the Cardinals.
Boy, I'll defer until after Sunday's game.
You can't. Okay. Well, what are you going to do about the 49ers? Because I'm going to ask you about them next.
Yeah, again, these quarterback situations are kind of iffy,
Well,
but I think
Jimmy G, I can tell you that Jimmy G will start Sunday. I don't know if he'll finish, but he will start for the 49ers.
yeah, I like them to make the playoffs. I think yeah.
What do you think? The Rams are ahead. I mean, the Ravens are ahead 16-10. 5 seconds left in the third quarter. Bill, the
Yes.
Cardinals.
Yeah, I felt like I just
Okay.
answered that.
Yeah, I
But
mean, excuse me, not the Cardinals, the 49ers.
I only think one team makes it out of the NFC West. I think the Cardinals are that one team, so I think they come up a game short.
Okay. All right, Mr. Scott, your favorite part of the show. Predictions. Okay, Mr. Scott, the Broncos plus 3.5 at the Jaguars.
Jeez. I'll take the Jaguars at home.
Bill?
It's Jaguars versus Zoo.
The Broncos versus the Jaguars. The Broncos plus 3.5.
Well, the 3.5 makes it interesting. I'm still going to go Jaguars. It's going to be close, but I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
Bill, the Panthers plus 6.5 at the Falcons.
As much as I hate to lay 6.5 points, I'm going to take the Falcons, but oof, that scares me.
Mr. Scott, the Panthers plus 6.5 at the Falcons.
What's with all these half points on the lines? I don't. You can't even get a push. You can't even get a push with all the half points. Everything's a half point.
I don't think that Mr. Scott, they haven't had pushes in Las Vegas since. Wow, let me see.
It's been a while.
Yeah. What? You can't? They don't do that no more.
Oh no! You get the hook. That's why the half is there.
Well,
Gone are those days, Mr. Scott, when you get the little football slip that says even, and I don't think those exist anymore. Maybe I don't think they even exist in the office pool anymore. I don't know. I guess we'd have to ask Bill about that. But
this half points really. But I take the Panthers. I'll take the points. I mean, it's one of those games that they traded their best player, and you wouldn't think anything of them. So,
okay, well then the Bears, Mr. Scott, plus 9.5 at the Cowboys.
Love it. Love the 9.5. Love it. Might load up on
it. Bill.
And the same team, right?
Bears and Cowboys. Bears getting 9.5.
Woo! That's a big number. I don't think the Cowboys cover that number. I'm going to go with the Bears.
Okay. Bill, the Fins minus 3.5 at the Lions.
The Lions are a favorite by 3.5 points.
No, the Lions are a 3.5 point dog.
Oh, give me the home dog. If you bet on the home dog often enough, you'll be able to put another edition on your house.
But I don't think it'll be this edition. But what's your Scott there? What's your thoughts there, Mr. Scott? The Fins.
I go against the Lions. I go against the Lions every week. That's just a given.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Oh, okay. Here's one for you, Mr. Scott. The Cardinals minus 3.5 at the Vikings.
Boy. Vikings coming off a bye. They're 5-1. It's kind of, they've been winning some of these games by the skin of their teeth. I mean, there's been some real funny little things happen for them to win. Remembering the great game the Vikings lost in playoffs with Nate Poole made that great catch. I'm going to take Arizona. I'm going to take the points.
What? All right. Oh my goodness. I got to make sure we put that. Yeah, I got to make sure the tape's working for that one. Okay. Bill, the Cardinals getting 3.5 at the Vikings.
And we already gave the prediction, right? I thought we did.
Did I get you for that one? Okay. The Raiders minus 1.5 at the Saints.
No. Bill didn't do that one. Bill, I want to hear the Vikings, the Raiders.
Oh, okay.
The Vikings,
all right. Yeah. The Vikings and the Cards minus 3.5. The Cards are getting 3.5.
Yeah, the Cards are getting 3.5, and it's in Arizona, right?
Nope. No. It's in Minnesota.
No, it's in Minnesota. Oh boy, that makes it tough. Okay, because the number is probably just about right. I will take the Vikings under those conditions. It's very close in my mind. The Vikings have a very good record, but it's somewhat deceiving. They have played a lot. They've played a lot of backup quarterbacks already in a very short season. They've already played a good number of teams that weren't playing with their starting quarterback. But this is a better team than people were expecting, but not as good as their record indicates. But they'll survive this one as well.
So the Vikings home team, man, takes the Cardinals, and Bill, you take the Vikings. Okay, well, hey, we got it on record here in case we have to pull it back up. Bill, the Raiders minus 1.5 at the Saints.
The Raiders minus 1.5 at the Saints. I will go Raiders anyway. I think the Raiders are about to go on a little bit of a run. I think that they stumbled around and stepped on their own shoelaces and stuff like that early in the season. I think they got some of that out of their system. They're getting some people back from injury. And I think most importantly, they're starting to sync up some parts of their offense that were very much out of sync earlier.
Okay. Mr. Scott, the Raiders minus 1.5 at the Saints.
Usually Saints are a really good home team. I mean, over the years, they've been great, but it's such a different regime now. I'm going to take the Raiders. I agree. I think they're on an upswing, and they got a lot of talent, so they got to get going.
Mr. Scott, the Patriots minus 1.5 at the Jets.
Boy, I don't know what the Patriots got, so I got to take the Jets at home.
Bill, the Patriots minus 1.5 at the Jets.
Well, once again, it's that hook. If it were one, it would be an easy one, but they don't want it to be easy. I will take the Jets.
Bill, the Steelers plus 10.5 at the Eagles.
Oof. This is not a homer pick. As you know, I do not like, and it's in our place, right? It's in Pittsburgh, right?
Nope, it's at the Eagles.
Oh, that makes it a harder pick then. Okay. I'm still going to go with the Steelers. I think they may still lose this game by 9 or even 10 points, but I don't think they get the hook. I think they end up getting, losing that game by 9 or less. I mean, 10 or less. So that means that it's going to be the Steelers, narrowly avoiding the cover.
Mr. Scott, the Steelers plus 10.5 at the Eagles.
Boy, I got to take that big number. The Steelers, just on reputation, I would have to take it. Yeah, I take the 10.5. I don't like these halves. I mean, is this a really legitimate line? Is this a legitimate line? Is this the way it's going to be for Sunday? I mean, this is really.
This is straight off ESPN Pigskin Pick'em.
Yep.
I take them right off the site, so you can just anytime you want to know the predictions, just go on ESPN Pigskin Pick'em. They have one set of where you play, just where you pick the winners, and they have another set where you pick the winners with the handicap.
Yeah, but
Strange,
every game has the hook on it. Every game has it. Not just
yeah.
some of the games, every single game. So this is conspiratorial stuff. This is every game like that.
Let's see. The Titans, Mr. Scott, plus 3.5 at the Texans.
Oh yeah, I'll take the Titans. They got a running game. They can. I don't think the Titans are no good.
You mean the Texans?
Texans, yeah.
Yeah.
Texans are no good.
Bill, the Titans, minus 3.5 at the Texans.
Okay, and it's being played where again?
In Houston.
Okay, and the number was what again?
3.5.
3.5. I think Houston loses, but I think they lose by 3 or less. So no, I will go once again with, and it's in Houston. So let's go with the home dog. You can put, like I said, an addition on your house if you bet the home dog off of that.
Let's see how you feel about this one. The Commanders plus 3.5 at the Colts.
That's fascinating. The Colts defense, I think, is starting to come together. They still miss Shaquille, a.k.a. Darius Leonard. But I think they win it, and the number was how many?
3.5.
Oh, so close. But it's in Indianapolis.
Yep.
Yeah. I think Indianapolis covers, but very close. I think by half a point they cover it. I think they get
who you got, Mr. Scott? The Commanders plus 3.5 at the Colts.
Well, I don't like the game at all. I don't like anything about this game. I mean, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to. Yeah, it's off the board for me. I'm scratching it off.
Okay, here's what. What about the 49ers plus 1.5 at the Rams?
I think 49ers. I for some reason I like them, and I think the Rams coming back to earth.
Okay, Bill, the Rams plus 1.5 at. I mean, excuse me, the 49ers plus 1.5 at the Rams.
And the number on that one was
1.5.
Oh, okay. And they're playing in
L.A.
It is in LA. Okay. They don't have a great home field advantage because of the late arriving crowd, and a lot of fans of other teams reside in Los Angeles. Nonetheless, I will take the Rams because of my commitment to taking home dogs. It's close though, but yes.
I don't know. Let's see. Am I going to go watch the Lakers or am I going to go watch the Rams? I think I'm going to go watch the Rams, but that's just me. Mr. Scott, the Giants plus 2.5 at the Seahawks.
Oh boy, I like the Giants. I just like, but Geno Smith is not getting no respect, and so he could get some respect in this game. And so I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna go with Seahawks.
Bill, Giants or Seahawks? Giants getting 2.5.
Oof. I will agree with the gentleman from the great state, the land of 10,000, land of 10,000 lakes.
No.
And yes, I think that they managed not to allow the Giants to cover.
Bill, the Packers plus 10.5 at the Bills.
Yeah, I want to hear this. Let me turn up my volume here.
Yeah, well, 10.5 is a huge number, and I don't think they're going to be able to cover 10.5. So I will go with the Packers.
Mr. Scott.
Boy, I would love to see a total Packer collapse. I would just love to. I would love to see that. But that 10.5 is preventing me. I'm going to take the Packers in the points. Of course, it's not going to be Packers don't care about cold because it's the coldest place in the universe when they play football. So,
come on now, Buffalo ain't too far behind.
Packers.
I can tell you that. I can tell you that. But Buffalo ain't too far behind. But Mr. Scott, you might not want to take the D to the house.
It's still October, so so still.
Well, like I say, you might not want to take the D to the house, and you might not want to take the title to the car. But if you got an extra snowblower hanging around the house, I think I'd put that snowblower on the Bills. So, but that's just me. I think that the Bills are definitely the best of the East right now, and I think that they'll cover this. I think they'll beat them by at least 2 touchdowns, if not more. Let's see. Who did I leave? Mr. Scott, the Bungles the Bungles are giving the Clowns 3.5, and the game is in Cleveland. Score is 13-17, Mr. Scott. Ravens have the ball, I believe, and there's 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So, Mr. Scott, the Bungles minus 3.5 at the Clowns. Did I lose Mr. Scott?
You did apparently lose Mr. Scott.
Here he is. Here he is.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah.
Mr.
Scott, the Bungles minus 3.5 at the Clowns.
Cincinnati.
Ooh, okay. All right. Who you got, Bill?
I will also agree with Cincinnati.
Is Watson going to play at all? Is Watson just done? Is that what's? I mean, I thought he was practicing, but then more women come out. So just like more women always.
He's gonna he's gonna be activated in a few weeks. He'll be able to go to full football activities on November the 20-somethingth, and then he'll play the subsequent week after that.
Yeah, so you got 2 more weeks. I mean, no, you got another.
I think it's more like.
I think it's more like 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 and change. Yeah.
Yeah. Before Watson's back.
Yep.
Who did you take on that one, Bill?
Oh, I thought I just said.
Did you say you took both of you took Cincinnati, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Only due to the closeness. Well, let's see. We still have 10 minutes and 12 seconds left in this one. And the Ratbirds have just gotten a first down and a 4-point lead. So, great show tonight, everyone. Bill, why don't you give us your final thoughts for the evening, and look forward to talking with you next week.
Sure. And There's been a lot of discussion. Of course, I know obviously on your Monday night show, I'm sure you talked at least to some extent about what's going on with Kanye West, a man who did not know well, but a man that I met on a couple of occasions. And I'm assuming, though I probably shouldn't, that there was some delving into, the nature of celebrity and what it costs you. And obviously, by the very description of what a celebrity is, any professional football player is either a minor or major celebrity simply by the sheer fact that they're on television, on a very, very regular basis. But also, well, it's actually tomorrow, but I'll cheat a little bit. Tomorrow, right, the 28th of October, in 1937, on the 28th of October, Leonard Randolph Wilkins was born in Brooklyn, New York. You would know probably was like his Lenny Wilkins. And his father was black, his mother was white. That in 1937 was, in many parts of the United States, illegal, right? Not just frowned upon, not just something to get you stared at, but something that gets you put in jail in many of the 50 states.
Brownsville, West Virginia.
And lots of other places, right?
Perhaps Gary, Indiana at that particular time.
A lot of places, yes. The state I grew up in, Virginia, a long list, right? Until, in fact, it was Loving versus State of Virginia, right? They eventually broke the grip of miscegenation and took that out of the books. But he grew up in Bed-Stuy, which was then and still is now one of the tougher sections of the city. His father died young. The family was poor. And while he was at Boys High School in Brooklyn, a priest encouraged him to take up playing basketball. And within 3 years, he had earned a scholarship to Providence, which is a small Catholic institution in Rhode Island. He helped them win a berth in the NIT in 1959, then again during his senior year in 1960. And though they never won the championship, he was still the MVP of the tournament, which tells you something, because normally, the MVP of the tournament goes to a team that wins it all. He was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks in the 1960 draft. Spent 8 years there. And then in the 10-year period from 60 to 70 was 9 times an All-Star. Finished second 1 year behind only Wilt Chamberlain for the NBA MVP award. Was traded to the Seattle Supersonics in 68, and then later became a player coach. In that position, he led the Sonics to their first winning season ever, like in the history of them as a franchise, 71-72. Then he left coaching behind for 2 seasons when he went to the Cavaliers, and then became a player coach of the Portland Trailblazers in 74. Once his 15-year playing career ended, he went back to coaching, was the Trailblazers coach for another year. He's still one of the all-time leaders in assists, free throws, and was MVP of the 1971 All-Star Game. Obviously, we had William Felton Russell became a player coach and was a successful one, right? Won a championship as a player coach. So he wasn't the first, but he certainly was one of the Trailblazers and one of the early player coaches / coaches in the NBA who was black, or in his case, I guess, biracial, whatever term we would use now, though that was not a term anyone was using back in 1937. But he had a terrific record as a coach and later became a general manager, once again, where he was another Trailblazer, one of the very early African-American, or at least partially African-American general managers. Managed to engineer a almost unbelievable turnaround for the Cavaliers. And then the Hawks came along. He coached them to the Central Division Championship, was the NBA Coach of the Year in 1994, remained there until 2000. He's the only person who was both on the list for the 50 greatest players and the 10 greatest coaches in the history of the NBA. One of one. Leonard Randolph Wilkins is one of one to make both the 50 greatest players and the 10 greatest coaches. Inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame, May 9th, 1989. And then again as a coach in October the 2nd, 1998. During his time as a player's coach, he's been Coach of the Year. He's won an NBA ring, championship ring, 2 Olympic gold medals, has been named one of the top coaches and top 10 players of all time. And I just think that he doesn't talked about enough, quite frankly, as one of the greats and one of the trailblazers in professional sports. That's my final thought.
Mr. Scott, take us home.
Well, as Bill talks about history, and history is really my thing. It just made me think about the article I saw the other day. Player that played. See, the Minneapolis Lakers were here before they went to Showtime for LA. And they played right at high school auditoriums, but they were winning championships. But there was a center by the name of George Mikan. And apparently they are going to raise his jersey. Now, the Lakers are coming here Friday, so I don't know if he's going to he might be at – well, no, I don't think he's here. His kids will probably be at the game. But they're going to raise his jersey to the rafters in L.A., and that was one of the first big men. But when you think about it, he didn't have to play against Bill Russell. He didn't have to play against Wilt. He didn't have to play against all these great – Zillam Beatty, all these Bob Lanier, all these great – centers, and how the NBA was just kind of almost like wrestling, almost like the old AWA, playing in places like Rochester and Fort Wayne, Indiana, and so you think about how far that it's come to where we're at today, and with George Mikan, and then Elgin Baylor came the year. I think he was here for 1 year. If I'm not mistaken, I think he came here and played 1 year before they went to LA. But another all-time great. I mean, one of the first of the real all-time greats. And during that time, the University of Minnesota brought up so many players. Lou Hudson, Archie Clark, Michael Thompson. I mean, all these players came up from the South, and they really made Minnesota. They just changed the whole. Jim Brewer from Chicago changed the whole tenor of what was going on in sports and otherwise in the Twin Cities here. So it made me think of George Mikan in those days when they said we couldn't play basketball, because I remember telling my sons, we went to a game. They said, at one time they didn't let black players play, and they're like, who would want to watch that? Who would want to watch that, Dad? So, well, that's the way it was, the way they wanted it. So all of these things always come into play with me. When you're talking about history, you always talk about how we've been treated as part of that, and kind of hard to get away from that. So that's my final thing.
Well, gentlemen, hey, I look forward to talking to everybody next Thursday. Mr. Scott, hope I can just see you and Bill Monday. And have a great weekend, everyone. And we look forward to talking to you next week right here on the SPORTSKRIB.
And if you got any sure things that's going to win, let me know. Just email me if it's sure. I want sure. I don't want sure things. I don't want no guesses.
All right, Mr. Scott. Everyone, have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, next week.